People who were made to choose between your pet or your partner. How did your ex react when you chose your pet? Not me. But my sister was dating a guy who angrily accused her of loving her elderly cat more than him. She said she had had him for 14 years, and they had only been dating for about a month. Guess he wasn't expecting that because he just kind of shut up and left the house. LOL. Dude can fuck off. I'm married with 3 kids and I still have a special spot in my heart for my cat, Stella, who is 14 this year. I was gifted her maybe 1 to 2 years before I met my husband, so he understands our bond. I remember him saying my diabetic cat needed to go so he could get a dog. We weren't even living together. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "My cat will outlive this relationship." Considering she was really sick at the time, he said it was unlikely and stormed off. We broke up 6 years ago, and my cat is still going strong. Was getting a divorce and the ex-wife demanded my dog or she'd take me to court over the house. I reluctantly gave him to her. She called me 5 days after taking possession of him. He was chewing everything of hers, peeing all over her and her new boyfriend's house. I got him back and he never did any of that for me. Still have him, and he is 15 years old now. I found out my girlfriend was hitting my dog when I wasn't around. I left her, and she was unable to admit that was the reason. I guess answering the question of, "What happened to you guys?" with, "Oh, he found out I was secretly hurting his dog," might make for awkward conversations. True story. I'm paraphrasing. My friend had his girlfriend spend the night at his house. While he was making her breakfast, she began complaining about his nasty dog. My friend told her, "You should stop complaining. The dog lives here and you don't." They broke up a week later. My friend got mad at his GF's dog. His GF yelled at him. I told him, "You know who she will choose if this keeps up, right? I think we all know how it works." 2 friends of mine dated seriously years ago. Girl's cat had jealousy issues and peed on guy's shoes. Guy put cat in the bathtub and pissed on cat. Relationship didn't last much longer. The cat pisses on my stuff and it's fine. But I piss on the cat and suddenly it's a huge deal. What a double standard! Not exactly what you asked for, but I knew a couple that had to break up because she was badly allergic to his elderly dog. They were both understanding of the situation and theirs was no animosity. They ended up getting back together after the dog had passed away and are now very happy. This is my favorite story from when I worked in a shelter. A guy came in to surrender his cat, with the reason that his girlfriend didn't like her. He starts filling out the paperwork, but partway through he just stops and says, "Screw this. I'm just going to break up with her instead." He picks up the cat and walks out the door, presumably to leave his GF. I hope he stuck to it, and he and his cat got a happy ending. She acted like she never even considered I'd choose the cat over her. I don't think that thought had ever entered her mind. Then she went into a big spiel about how I'm a loser, I'm missing out, there's only one of her, etc., etc. Yeah, I knew all that when I put my foot down over her idiotic jealousy of the cat liking me more than her. The cat is now 16 and still with me, happy in her senior years. There's been other women since her, ones that treated me a lot better than she did. It was a total win for both the cat and myself. It's a good thing that there's only one of her, because she sounds like someone you wouldn't ever want to date again. The dog chose me. LOL. I divorced my husband and his dog destroyed his house and sadly wouldn't eat properly or do anything but stress until he came to live with me and my dog. But to be fair, my ex is terrible at pets. He just kept him outside all day and night with no interaction. The dog is a Great Dane, and at the time it was me, my toddler, and my dog in a little town house, but we gladly took in the big guy over keeping him alone and miserable with his actual owner. You can learn a lot about a person by how they treat animals. Not me, but my sister chose our cat over her boyfriend of 4 months. He was furious when she dumped him and called her an idiot for picking a dirty flea bag over him. Cat was not a dirty flea bag. He just hated pets and wanted to try to control my sister. I was relieved when she dumped him. I never got good vibes from him. Jesus, I can't imagine having the gall to demand any kind of lifestyle change after only 4 months in a relationship, let alone one as major as getting rid of a pet. I found out that my ex had been talking to her mom about putting my dog down while I was at work and just telling me she ran away or something. Before that moment, I never would have thought I could have violent feelings towards a woman. But now I know in my heart that there's a serious possibility I would have hurt her had she actually done it. My ex asked me if she thought my dog liked me or her more, and I said me. She got genuinely mad and told me I am supposed to just lie to her. Didn't last long. I bred tarantulas professionally for a few years. Most were in a specially designed shed outside, but I had a few in the house. Was totally upfront with people when dating, and if it was a deal breaker, then no hard feelings. I dated this one guy for a few months, but we'd always go out or to his. I didn't really think much of it. Around month 4, he started getting annoyed and one day, straight up asked me how long it was gonna take to sell a few spiders. I thought he was talking about my actual job, so I was like, "Oh, I sell them in bulk to a supplier. He's coming round on Tuesday, actually." And my BF was so relieved, but I couldn't really understand why. So the dude comes round on the weds and sees the tarantulas in the house and goes on an absolute tirade about how I lied to him, how I've broken his trust, and how he's gonna need time to heal. NGL, I just burst out laughing. I was like, "You really thought I was gonna give up my job for you?" Well, that was apparently not the reaction he expected. He stormed out, yelling about how I was such a dumb bitch for not realizing how great he was. LMAO. Tried to crucify me on social media, but he just ended up looking like an idiot. LOL. Had an old friend who chose her ex's dog over the ex. And though there was no choosing in the "one's not around anymore" sense, my dog 1000% loves my husband more than he ever loved me. If I had not married my husband, pretty sure my dog would have given me an ultimatum. When my husband and I first met, I wasn't sold. But my dogs loved him so much that I gave him another date. And then another. We ended up moving, with the dogs and his cat, to Central America for 2 years, coming back to the US, opening a restaurant, and having a kid. The dogs have long since passed from old age, but I'll forever be grateful that they convinced me to go on a second date with the best man in the world. I dated a guy who told me he would convince me to choose him over my cats. I broke up with him shortly after, mostly due to that. Was happily single, then my now husband comes along and says, "I've always wanted to be the husband of the crazy cat lady." Way to win a girl's heart. I had an ex that joked about putting my cats in a burlap sack and throwing them into a river. I told him I'd rather stick him in a sack, tie it to an anvil and drop him into a river instead. We didn't date for very long. Not my story, but my friend. His GF forced him to choose between her or dog, but that dog was remaining memento from his deceased mother, and of course he instantly dumped his GF. His GF went from face full with expectations to beet red full of shame and anger, and smashed his house windows when she left his house. I have a 14-year-old calico that started as a family pet but bonded intensely with me. My husband was very sketched out by cats when we were dating. When things got serious and we talked about our future together, I told him point blank that she'd been in my life longer, and there was no way I could leave her behind. He started coming over more to spend time with her. He would watch my cat from hell and read about cat behaviors, needs, and introducing them to new environments. We moved her into his apartment for about 6 months, and then drove halfway across the country with her. She's now the queen of our NYC apartment, and can't seem to choose which of us she likes better. This is so wholesome. He went out of his way not just to get to know her but learn about cats and everything they need and want to be happy. He's probably a better expert on cats than most owners at this point. LOL. Not directly relevant, but we once took in a dog, whose human was asked to make this choice. Beautiful Weimaraner. The guy brought the dog out to our house, on a hill in the woods with acres to roam. Dogs absolutely love it out here, and we spent some time walking around letting the dog get used to the place and meet our other furry residents. We could tell it was really hard on both of them when he left. The next day he kicked the woman out, and came back for the dog. Happy ending all around, I'd say. I had an incredibly toxic boyfriend who had at one point paid the fee for a rescue cat for me for my birthday. The cat really didn't like him. She wasn't aggressive, she was just skittish and didn't want to be around him. We had gotten into a fight earlier that day about something unrelated, and he decided to start ranting about the cat and how he believed we should get rid of her, that she was a bad animal just because she was skittish. She was a rescue, and a very loving one at that if you let her come to you when she felt safe. He started to threaten to leave her at the Humane Society, or get rid of her when I wasn't around, so I couldn't stop him. I told him to get out of my house and immediately broke up with him. Butters is still making quality biscuits at my side and loves to take naps with me. Made to choose? That really happens? I've had my dog for 12 years, and I've known my wife for 4. For her to expect me to get rid of him would be insane. I've told my wife 100 times if they were both hanging off a cliff and I could only save one of them, I'd save her, but I'd take a second to think about it first. My husband tells me the opposite, lol. His rationale is I am more capable of saving myself than the dog. I agree, she has 0 chance and I have some chance hanging off a cliff. I personally didn't want any animals when I met my girl. She had 3 dogs around 80 pounds each that live in her house. It really made me nervous about living together. I was never much of a domestic animal lover. I personally saw it as a waste of time and money. We've lived together for 3 years now. We have 5 dogs now, and they are the best part of my day. Never knew what I was missing out on. To be fair, anyone giving you an ultimatum to choose between them and one of your loved ones, human or otherwise, isn't interested in a healthy relationship of any kind, and so isn't worth your time. Long story short, never choose the one giving the ultimatum. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.